Hi guys, it's Aoife from Words of Clover, and I'm here to start what I think is going to be a vlog. So I have, I think, like probably many people who have Kindle Unlimited, I have a huge list of books that I have taken out from Kindle Unlimited that have still yet to be read, and I want to start trying to get through them. And I feel like some of the maybe the easiest ways to do this is to kind of group two or three of them in categories and read them in succession, and then I'll be able to give them a review. So I have kind of like almost not singular reviews, but this is kind of like a book vlog slash review of certain Kindle Unlimited books based on genre slash category. So that is what I'm going to be starting today. So this one I think is going to be based on some kind of dark romance books that I have on my Kindle Unlimited. A lot of these books are books that I've just heard of from BookTube that I have thought might sound interesting and out of curiosity have taken from Kindle Unlimited. And the first one that I'm going to start with is Hooked, and this is a, as you might guess from the title, it is kind of, it's not necessarily a retelling, but it's inspired by the characters from Peter Pan, and we are following a man called James Hook who I think he owns a bar, and then his arch like nemesis is Peter Pan, who is like a wealthy businessman, and Peter Pan's daughter Wendy, I think she might come to work with Hook in his bar, and then the two of them start up something. So that's what I think is going on. But as I said, this is a dark romance, kind of almost like a taboo romance. And there are, yeah, I think there's a lot of like violent, gritty, sexual scenes in this book. So I will update you at some point when I get a little bit into Hooked and let you know how I'm getting on. And yeah, we will see. Hi guys, it is now Monday and I've been continuing on with my Kindle Unlimited project, so I wanted to check in with you guys and share all my thoughts and feelings so far. I actually was kind of bad and didn't do kind of like a halfway through check-in on Hooked because I was just kind of enjoying the weekend. There was a couple, I wouldn't necessarily like super sunny days, but there was some nice kind of heat in the air, so I did actually enjoy a little bit of kind of garden time with the dogs and with my partner, and yeah, it was really nice. So I was kind of just concentrating on being present rather than checking in with the novel. But yeah, so I've obviously finished it, and I finished it yesterday morning while I was in the garden. And I definitely have some thoughts about Hooked. So yeah, so as I probably briefly explained when I was introducing this project, this book in particular, Hooked, is kind of like a little bit of like a fairy tale retelling type story, and we are following characters Hook, James Hook, and Wendy, and a relationship between the two of them. Now, we're living in kind of a modern world, we're in our own world, we're not in a fantastical world, and what it is that James Hook has kind of um like a revenge plan against Peter Michaels, who's like the Peter Pan character. And Peter Michaels is much older. He is the older character in this scenario where Hook and Wendy are closer to the same age. So Hook sees Wendy one night in his nightclub and he decides, he knows who she is. He decides, this is the perfect revenge to get against Peter. I'm going to, you know, make his daughter fall in love with me, basically have sex with her, kind of leave her devastated, break her heart, do whatever, and hurt Peter by hurting his daughter. So he kind of starts going forward with that plan, but obviously him and Wendy, they get on very well. He's very enamored by her very quickly, and as he gets to know her a little bit better and starts kind of like falling for her a little bit, it obviously becomes harder for him to think about hurting her. But in the backdrop of all of this, Hook is very much a kingpin in a way in this like criminal underground, and we see him, how he manages his people and how he instills fear in the people who are trying to go against him or in his enemies. And we see a lot of violence. So there's a lot of sexual content in this book, but there's also a lot of violence in this book as well. which is fine. I've read books before with, very explicit sexual content as well as very explicit violent content as well, and that never bothers me. So I knew I'd be fine going into this book. The one thing I would say about it's kind of like the writing in general in this book is this is obviously kind of like a fan fiction story because we are following like characters who already exist in the world of literature. We are following well loved characters, and it's like a spin-off, like the author's own imagining of what these characters could be like in a different world. So yeah, it definitely gave me fan fiction vibes, and that's not necessarily a bad thing either. Like I don't read a lot of fan fiction now. I don't read any fan fiction now, in fact, but I used to read a lot of fan fiction when I was younger, when I was in college, and when I was like 18, 19, 20. I read a lot of fan fiction. I used to write fan fiction as well. I actually did write a Peter Pan fan fiction at one point in my life, but um, yeah, there was just something about this that gave me fan fiction vibes, and I think it's because I felt like the story was trying so hard to be dark and be sexy and be violent. It was very much like thrown in her face all the time. Like Hook wasn't just bad, he was like the meanest, baddest villain of all. And Wendy wasn't just good, she was like the purest, virginal darling like of everyone. And it just felt like slightly overdone in a way that meant that I just kind of, not that I was like eye rolling at parts of the story, but I just wasn't as into it as I maybe could have been or I wanted it to be. I definitely felt like I had like a step back from the story and I never really invested myself fully in it. I kind of was like, oh, okay, this is going to happen now. Or, oh, here we are again. And, I knew this was going to happen. Some of it was a little bit predictable as well. But in saying that, like, this isn't a bad story at all. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 stars. It's not a bad story. But yeah, as I said, it just felt slightly overdone, slightly like it was trying too hard. So yeah, I would love to know if anyone else has read this, what you guys think. I don't know if I'll go on and read the other books in the series. I will say the next book is called, I think it's called Scarred, and it is a Hamlet retelling, but it's obviously like also a Lion King retelling because Hamlet is very much the Lion King, or the Lion King is very much inspired by Hamlet, I should say. So, but that one kind of interests me a little bit more because the person who's trying to do the revenge is a female character, and I think that will be an interesting kind of reversal. Seeing like someone who is consumed with revenge and maybe violent thoughts and desires and stuff being the female character rather than the male character, which is what you generally see. So I am interested in that, so I might pick that one up. But again, if anyone has read that one, I would really love to know what you think. So yeah, Hooked was fine for me. It wasn't amazing, definitely not a book I'll be shouting from the rooftops, but I'm glad I read it because my interest has been piqued about this book for a very long time. So I'm glad I finally got to read it, and I'm giving it a 3 out of 5 stars. The next book I'm going to be reading now is Still Beating by Jennifer Hartmann, and this is a book that I've read or I've seen a lot of people talk about. And this one is when you're talking about dark romance, this is like kind of like peak dark romance, I think, in terms of the content that is in this book. And I will say I'm 30% through it at the moment, and there are definitely like the first part of it, there are some really like grisly kind of out there scenes, and yeah, it's very, some of it is a little bit shocking and quite hard to read. And yeah, I can't say it's like an enjoyable read, but I'm interested to kind of continue further with the characters and see how they overcome what has been happening to them. So in this one we are following Cora and Dean, and Dean is engaged to Cora's sister, but Dean and Cora have always had a very kind of um like bad relationship between the two of them ever since they were teenagers, and they kind of just rubbed each other up the wrong way. And Dean is always kind of, they're always kind of playing pranks on each other and kind of annoying each other. And so the two of them kind of like, Cora's like, oh, I hate Dean, he's like, he's my biggest enemy in the world, where I think Dean doesn't necessarily like hate Cora, he just likes riling her up. And obviously we know that means that there's probably something brewing there with him, and probably with her. She just won't accept it. But they're obviously going to be in each other's lives forever because Dean is marrying Cora's sister. And then one night, after her sister's birthday, Cora can't find a ride home, so she ends up calling Dean, and he comes to pick her up. But the two of them end up being like kidnapped by this like lunatic kind of guy, and they're chained up in this basement. And now the two of them kind of have to depend on each other for survival while they really terrible things are being done to them, and they're also being told to do things to each other. So yeah, I'm on the second part of this now, so we've moved on from this kind of like torture, like trauma storyline, and we're on to the next storyline, which is where I think we're at the beginning of where they need to start not getting over what has happened to them, but dealing with what has happened to them. And I think this is going to be the interesting part, seeing what happens next, how they get over it, how maybe the people around them try to take care of them, how they do wrong, how they do right, and obviously seeing how Cora and Dean, I presume, will eventually come together to try and heal their trauma together. But in a way, like, how do they do that, and how do they maybe get closer with this without hurting the one of the people that means most to them in the world, which is Cora's sister. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that one happens. Again, I won't say the writing is absolutely amazing in this one. I think just the out there-ness of the story is definitely what propels it forward. The fact that the author is daring enough to talk about something and to write a book with this content, which, is, I guess not something that someone would ever traditionally publish. So yeah, in a way, it's like it's definitely like it's definitely something I haven't really read about before, to this extent. But yeah, as I said, I'm kind of interested now to see how the characters move on with their lives and what happens next with the two of them. So yeah, I will keep you updated with this one, and we will see. I don't really know what to expect from it. So and as I said, there were definitely parts of it that definitely were, I was like, oh, okay, like this is definitely a little bit shocking to read, and it's not something I would recommend to people unless you really feel like you're able to read this kind of content. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing. Looking forward is a weird word, but yeah, let's see what happens next, and I will give you guys my opinions. Maybe when I finish it, or at some point, maybe in the next like 30 to 40%. Hi guys, it is now, what day is it today? It is Wednesday. I wanted to hop on and give you guys an update on how my Kindle Unlimited project is going. So yeah, we were in the same place, different day, haven't put on any makeup as it is 3:20 right now, and I'm going to be honest, I don't want to put any makeup on because I'll just be taking it off in a couple hours. But yeah, I wanted to check in and tell you guys what I thought of Still Beating by Jennifer Hartmann, as I have finished that now. And like, I know I was a little bit mixed, kind of veering towards more positive in my last update, but the more I read this book, the more I actually disliked it, which is a little bit of a shame because this is like a super hyped book. People really, really love it. And I have come to the opinion that I think people seem to just really like it because the subject matter is such a taboo subject. Like, you have two people who are in an incredibly terrible situation being forced to be intimate with each other. Like, these feelings that they're having towards each other are almost being forced, and on the top of that, there are some other really bad things happening to the female character as well. And so there's a lot of emotion going on in the story, which means there's a lot of trauma to try and overcome in the second half of the story. And I just am not sure, like, I think people just see the emotion, see the trauma, and then also the taboo subject. They're like, well, the author went there, so this has to be really, really good. And like, the writing isn't terrible. I'm not saying the writing in this book is terrible, because it's not. But again, I just feel like the subject matter of the book and everything that the characters went through, I just didn't feel like there was the type of emotional, or like the type of emotions the characters felt. I just feel like we didn't get that broken down enough, and them like pushing through it, I just felt it slightly unrealistic in some of the, like, and even some of the, like, when we do get some of that recovery, it's all almost like off page. We don't see a lot of it. We do see them kind of breaking down until, like, where they almost like can't get any worse. They have to get to their lowest low before they can get better. And we do see that particularly with the female character. We don't really see it with the male character, but we see it with the female character of Cora. And we see her get to a really, really low place before she starts to kind of recover. But we see a lot of that recovery, that a lot of recovery kind of happens completely off page, completely away from from the views that we are seeing. So that was kind of disappointing. And one of the reasons that I just ended up giving this book a 2 out of 5 stars is because I just felt the way a lot of the characters acted towards each other, and the way some of the characters were portrayed as well by the author. Um, I just had a kind of like a problem with it. I just didn't really enjoy it. This is what normally comes down to me with some more self-published books, or books that are maybe not as traditionally published. I do find things around the characters and character interactions and stuff like that. Those are the things that normally really make a book less than perfect for me. It makes a book be that like 2 or like a low 3 star, or even a 1 star. That's what like really kind of just irks me when it comes to particular books, and I feel like that sometimes is the lack of a traditional publisher. I'm not sure, but I don't find it as much. I don't find the same issues as much in traditionally published books, versus some of the books that I do see on Kindle Unlimited, or some of the the other types of books that I've read in the past on NetGalley. But a lot of the ways that Cora and Dean even reacted to each other at the start of the book, this like hatred towards each other that was like really, really juvenile, to be honest, was also a little bit, I was like, if I had a sister and she acted the way she did towards my fiance, and my fiance acted the way he did towards her, there is no way I would be comfortable with that. Like, it's so obvious that all of this kind of the pranking and the fake hatred towards each other, like it's all hiding something else. Like, it's very, very obvious from the very start. Even why would you be able to be around that all the time, and seeing like two people you love the most act towards like that around each other? Like, it would be like, it's just, I don't think people, someone would actually be able to do that without seeing a problem. And then after what happens to them happens in the second half of the book, and we're seeing how people are reacting towards them after this terrible thing has happened, and knowing all these terrible things that have happened to them, and only even knowing like the surface level of those terrible things, not actually knowing the really bad things that Cora and Dean are keeping between them. The way people act towards them and act towards how they should be recovered, I'm like, I don't think people would really be like that. Like, I don't think someone, like, a few weeks after someone has been like tortured and sexually assaulted for days on end, would say, oh, you need to get back out there, and why don't you come drinking with us and clubbing with us, and try and get with a guy again. Like, I just don't think like someone would actually do that. Like, I think most people in the world have enough cop on to know that that is not how recovery goes. Now I could be wrong here, I could, like, but I just don't think people are like that. So yeah, and then one of the really annoying things in this book was Cora's sister Mandy, and how she reacts to Cora and to Dean, and after everything comes out about what happened to them, what they had to do to each other, and how she reacts, and how she basically like turns against Cora in a way, like calling her traitorous, calling her this, that, and the other. And it's like, do you not understand like what has happened to your sister, and what she has gone through, and how, like, I think it would be a very, very realistic thing to presume that two people who've been in a situation like that together would have an emotional bond with each other. So it's just like, it's just really like correct, like her behavior. I was like, I just genuinely don't think someone would behave like that. Like, I just think this is very dramatized for the book. I just genuinely do not think someone who truly loves their sister would do this. And then of course we see the whole time that, like, I think it's very obvious from the start that her and Dean's relationship was always very shallow. I'm not sure how you could have a 15-year relationship with it being that shallow. Like, again, why would you be with someone for 15 years and not truly love them? Like, that's just insane to me. So that was just really like, wow, okay. And then the way Mandy is described at certain times, or things that are pointed out about her by the author, in a way that is meant to be that we're not supposed to like her that much, or, you know, making her come across as shallow or pathetic in comparison to Cora, who was like this perfect girl, you know, really beautiful with or without makeup, always just like, you know, this like kind of like a perfect female character, beautiful in so many different ways. And then we have Mandy, who is, it's always pointed out that she has like this, like, her red lipstick on, or her hair is perfectly curled and blonde, and then she's wearing stilettos. Like, God forbid she wear high heels in her parents, for her parents' Christmas party, or for like a Christmas gathering at home, that she shouldn't be allowed to wear high heels. Like, it's kind of pointed out as in like the fact that she's wearing high heels is weird, and then the fact that she has like false eyelashes and stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't know many women these days who don't have some sort of like eyelash extensions, fillers, like their hair done. Like, it's just like, And like, it's like, it's like that real kind of thing around, you know, if you don't wear makeup, you're not trying hard enough. But if you do wear makeup, or if you wear too much makeup, you're a slut. And it's just like that kind of argument, which is like all comes down to like what we're told, like how women should behave, and all comes down to patriarchy, obviously. And that just irritates me, and I hate seeing that in books, that like because Mandy wears makeup and is maybe not as like, you know, it isn't doesn't read Shakespeare like her sister, and isn't like a teacher and is a hairdresser, that she's shallow and not as, you know, not as good as Cora and stuff like that. And that just really, really irritated me. So yeah. So yeah, obviously I had a lot of like issues with the book, and it wasn't like really anything to do with the dark content. The dark content I was able to deal with, but I did find the sexual content in the rest of the book, I just couldn't, not that I say I couldn't enjoy it, but like in terms of other sexual content I've read before, I just didn't really, I guess I didn't really enjoy reading it because the sexual content at the start of the book had been so violent and so horrible. It just felt really like it was just too much. It was just too much for me in a way, and I think some people would be fine with that, but for me, I just found it a bit icky having that sexual content after the other type of content that we'd had. But yeah, a lot of the problems that I did have actually just came down to the characters and how the characters were written. So yeah, so this was a 2 out of 5 stars, which I am disappointed with, because as I said, this is a really hyped book on Kindle Unlimited. It's one of the really like hyped dark romance books, so I was really, really hoping to enjoy it. But so far, it is the one I've liked the least so far. So yeah, that has been disappointing. Now, the next book I was going to talk about was going to be Priest, but I actually double checked, and for some reason I had thought in my head that this was a book I'd gotten from Kindle Unlimited, but I actually didn't. I just got it on a Kindle deal, so I think I got it for like 99p or something like that. So this actually isn't on Kindle Unlimited, so I'm not going to read this book. In fact, I'm already halfway through another book that I'm going to read instead, which is on Kindle Unlimited and is also a dark romance book, and that is The Risk by S.T Abby. I keep saying Saint Abby in my head, but it's S.T Abby. And this one is actually only a short book. It's only about 130 pages, and I'm already like 70% through. So it's not going to take me much to finish this book. And I'm going to actually be honest, this is the book I've enjoyed the most. And I actually think the writing is the strongest in this book so far. And the premise of the book is also really, really interesting, especially for anyone who may be like me and who really, really enjoyed Criminal Minds when it was on television and before it became like 3,000 seasons long. In this one, we are following a character called Lana, who we kind of get at the start. She seems to be on some sort of revenge mission. Something happened to her when she was younger, and now she's on a revenge mission to get the revenge like best served cold to the group of guys who did something really terrible to her. And we know that she is planning these things out really carefully. She's going into their homes and she is basically torturing and murdering them. So she is a serial killer. And we also see her strike up a relationship in her normal everyday life with a man called Logan, who actually is an FBI profiler who works with Quantico, and is actually one of the like investigators. She doesn't know this when she first starts talking to him, but he's actually one of like the detectives who is on the case of this serial killer, who is actually Lana. So this book is actually just the very start of their relationship, and we are seeing what Lana's intentions are, why she is going against these men, and then we also see Logan start to fall for her. But then also we see bits and pieces of his own like day-to-day work, and not just the case of Lana's serial killing, but we also see him talk about other serial killing cases as well, and see him kind of solve that as well. So it's actually really, really interesting from that kind of point of view. So I've actually really enjoyed this. I think the writing is really strong in it so far, and yeah, I like. So yeah, this is actually one that I am genuinely really enjoying, and I'm enjoying it more than Hooked and Still Beating. So which is funny because it's like not even half as long as those two, and I'm enjoying it a lot more, and I'm just genuinely finding the writing to be a lot stronger. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what the last 30% entails, what happens. Is there going to be a cliffhanger ending? So I will check in with you guys when I do that. But so far this one is definitely looking the most promising, and I'm really happy about that, because I'm happy hopefully to be ending this vlog on a more positive note with a book that I've genuinely really enjoyed. So yeah, I'm going to update you guys when I finish that, and fingers crossed fingers crossed it's a good one. Hi guys, I am back. It is Friday and I'm here to give a final update with my Kindle Unlimited project and to let you know how I finished the risk and what I thought about it. And I will say that my predictions when I was talking about it in the last clip were right, in that this is definitely my favourite of the three that I've read during this reading project. This was definitely my favourite one, and it's the one that I'm actually very excited to go on and read the next book, which I think I'm going to do that soon, probably next month. I might try, because they're all short books, but what I might do is I might get them out one by one from Kindle Unlimited, as long as they stay on Kindle Unlimited, and maybe once a month I might read one until it's finished up. But yeah, I definitely think the writing in this was quite strong. It definitely appealed to me as someone who I've said before, I like a lot of those shows where people are investigating murders, stuff like that. I definitely prefer TV shows and movies rather than true crime, and I don't watch a whole lot of them, but the ones I do watch I do always quite enjoy. So yeah, it definitely just appealed to me, to that side of me. And I did, interestingly, I think I actually enjoyed the male point of view more than the female point of view in this book, because of that aspect. Because with the male point of view, with Logan's point of view, we are seeing his work, and that's what I found interesting. Where when it switched to the female point of view of Lana, I did find sometimes she was a little bit slightly unrealistic in the way that she was, this big bad murderer basically. And there was this scene with her at one point where she's basically waiting in this, I don't know, there's an alleyway or somewhere, and she's waiting, and all these kind of shady people are coming up to her, shady men are coming up to her with ideas of what to do with her, and she is showing them one by one that she's not someone to be messed with. And that scene kind of felt to me slightly unrealistic. It almost felt like something out of an action movie, or Batman or something like that, where these guys with guns were running away from a girl with a knife. And I'm I would love for realistically in the world for that to happen, but I just can't see it realistically happening. So there are some elements like that you have to pause your disbelief a little bit when it comes to Lana's side of the story. But I kind of enjoyed the story overall enough to be able to do that, and to still enjoy the story as much as I was doing. There are also moments where she calls her the place, I don't know whether it's the place where she brings the guys that she's murdering, or where she's planning her murders. She calls it her murder room, and then she has her murder box of the things that she needs, and that just felt a little bit I was could she not call it something else? And she's saying this on phone calls and stuff to someone who knows, who's kind of her, not necessarily partner in crime, but someone who knows what she's doing and is kind of assisting her in some ways. And she's saying murder room and murder box and stuff like that, and I was would you not just have a code word? Anyone can hear you. But as I predicted might happen, this book does end on a really big cliffhanger, so I'm actually really excited to read the next book eventually and see what happens, and for this to kind of just be a nice kind of easy enjoyable read for me. And when I say that, with when I'm as I'm talking about a book that is literally about a girl murdering men in all sorts of ways. But you know what, guys, you know what I mean. It's still enjoyable. It's only 100 and something pages, and yeah, it's a good time for a short time. So yeah, this one was definitely my favorite one of the lot. It's a 4 out of 5 stars, so I'm really happy to have ended this with a really strong kind of book that I've really enjoyed, and a series that I'm going to continue on with. So to wrap up, Hooked, I liked. It was fine, but it just wasn't amazing for me, so it was a 3 stars. Still Beating, I didn't like. I thought there was a lot of weakness in parts of the writing, particularly the character writing, so that was a 2 out of 5 stars. And then The Risk, I liked the most, 4 out of 5 stars. I thought it had the strongest writing, the most interesting story, and has made me the most excited to continue on with the series. So yeah, I would love to know if you guys have read any of these books, especially if you've read on in the series that some of these books are in as well. I would love to know your opinions, what you guys think of them, if I should continue to read on. And yeah, if there's any other kind of similar books that you might recommend that you've enjoyed on Kindle Unlimited that I could take out and try out as well. And if you guys like this type of video as well, this kind of review format reading vlog video of books on Kindle Unlimited, because I do have lots of others, so I'll be able to do more in the future as well if this is something that people like. So thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I'll see you guys again next time. Bye.